The Land Before Time 10, The Great Longneck Migration, is not terrible, but I think it could have been much better. The pacing was horrendous, and the bit that I think is the most interesting, the bit that could have been really moving and meaningful and emotional, it wasn't horrendously executed, but I think they could have done so much more with it. This is, of course, the 10th Land Before Time animated feature film. It's directed by Charles Grosvenor, written by John Loy. It was released in 2003 and includes a voice cast including Alec, Medlock, Kenneth, Miriam, Flynn, Jeff Bennett, Rob Paulsen, Anndi, McAfee, and various others. And honestly, the first 40 minutes, I wrote down the time when things actually started to happen. The first 40 minutes are really, really terrible. It's basically all about sleep stories, or dreams as we call them. I like the term sleep stories. And yeah, that can maybe help young children work out what dreams are and what they can mean, and that everybody dreams, and thinking of them as sleep stories can make them a little less scary if some children are perhaps scared of dreams. I feel like that part of it I don't hate, but it's so boring. And then eventually, after 40 minutes, and I guess one could argue that this is a spoiler. In fact, I'll say at the very end what happens. I don't really think it's a spoiler, but because it takes half the film to happen, I don't want to give away too much. Basically, Littlefoot meets a very special Longneck. And I'll mention with a spoiler warning at the end who this Longneck is. But they could have done so much with that. I really wanted to know more. They could have done so much in terms of relatability with other characters. The viewer, if they're in a similar position, could have got so much out of it. And it's just so weak and so rushed and was not very well handled at all. So I like that it happened. I don't like how it was handled. The animation is as gorgeous as always. The music is quite nice, though not as strong as the songs in some of the previous films. Decent voice acting. It's simply the story was very, very poorly executed. The sleep story aspect could be beneficial, but wasn't interesting. And then the Littlefoot aspect could have been incredible. And it was very weak and watered down. Sure, I recommend the film. If you've watched the previous 9, obviously give it a watch. I'm sure there will be bits that you enjoy. But I would say not the concept, but the execution is the weakest so far. And actually, I think the concept with Littlefoot, which I'll explain in a moment, is maybe one of the strongest. So that really is a disappointment. So I will explain now who Littlefoot meets. This is, I guess, a spoiler. It's kind of what it's about, but it took half of the film. Littlefoot meets his father. That's amazing. Littlefoot has so many emotions. We find out why and where his father's been, and we get the backstory. And there were so many opportunities to really dig deep into Littlefoot's feelings and his emotions and how he's really felt without his father, compared with, I imagine, very mixed emotions with how he feels now. That could be compared with the relationships other characters have with their fathers. And again, for viewers who might be in a similar situation as Littlefoot, it could have been so beneficial. And yes, of course, we get a tiny bit of that. We do get something, but it was so rushed. And they could have introduced this so much earlier, and then maybe brought in the whole sleep story thing just a little bit here and there to give us a subplot. But Littlefoot's story was so important and so significant, and they completely ruined it. And that makes it a huge disappointment. I almost wish it was just a boring, pointless film, because that would be less disappointing than a really fabulous concept being really, for the most part, poorly executed. The Land Before Time 10, The Great Longneck Migration, had the potential to be one of the strongest Land Before Time films, but unfortunately it's very, very poorly handled.